10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to Idiot Blog 412. It's Metal Monday, and we're going to interview another metalhead, one of those Stay Puft classics. I don't know what the fuck that means. You know, Stay Puft, Marshmallow Man, classic bad guy, classic metalhead. I don't know. I say stupid stuff because I'm having fun. I'm gonna do a little thing here where it gets a little bit complicated. You guys know this, but I'm simulcasting to Facebook.com/Christopher Burns, YouTube.com/IdiotBurns, and BandLab.com/IdiotBlog. I also have one computer, 2 phones, an iPad, and a second computer. The second computer is so I can watch the streams and take the questions that they may have. Might even ignore them the whole way through. Who knows? I can't guarantee anything, but that's for that possibility. This computer will stay dedicated to the streaming process. And one phone for playing music, one phone to make the phone call, which we'll do here in just a few minutes to Sammy. I don't know if he likes to be called that. We'll call him just Samuel Palazon. Samuel P. Lazon plays on words. Plays on words. That's the best part of his name. I always think that every time I look up his name. First off, I think how cool of a name to actually have for it to be Samuel Plays On, right? How cool. And then he knows that, and he calls himself Playzon in the username. You can find him at SamuelPlayzon. I'm going to send him a little message. Just I'm reminding him, don't play it in the background. And I said I'm about to call. So we're listening to Amber and Ashes instrumental. We'll put it up a little bit of volume here, and I'll crack a beer. And then in just a couple seconds, we'll give him a call. I'm going to before I do that, double check that this is working on a few different platforms. I'll check Facebook first, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh the BandLab Explore section and browse down to the bottom and go ahead and look for Idiot Blog 412 online right now, see if it's there. Looks like it's there. It's live now. I'll pop on into that so I can see what's going on. Oh, like I said, that's supposed to be volume down. Where's the volume? There we go. Volume's down. Woo! And then go ahead and pop on over to the bottom of this page here. It looks like it's live here on BandLab as well. I guess I already knew that one, but I want to get it in view. Oh, this is a cool ending. Like a piano thing going on. That's way cool. All right. Darunna's on here. I did an interview with him. Hell yeah. What's up, Darunna? You were the Roadrunner, I believe, at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong. Might have been Darunna already. What's going on, Mexcal? This is where time begins, so it might as well also be where the call begins. I'm going to turn the music down just a little bit to pull it into the background. And I'll go ahead and give him a call once I double check that it's fine on Facebook, and it appears it is, so we'll be good. Here we go. Call him now. Whew. Should hear some ring-a-linging. Hey, are you there? Double check. 1 second here. Double check that this device is working. Can you hear me now? Okay, 1 second. 1 second. Audio's not coming through. I'll double check, then fix that. Happens sometimes. 1 second. Happened on 2 devices at once. Gotta love that. 1 second here. How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you great, dude.
Awesome. And I can hear you great. So you're coming through. We got Where Time we got the song Where Time Begins playing in the background.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We have the song
Where Time Begins. Yeah, man. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think relatively well. I think I just did that a couple days ago.
And I would say that's one of the things about your music is it not to sound redundant when saying this, but your music is expressive, sometimes a little bit dark. I would say your music is a little bit dark, but it, tinged with metal, not always full-blown metal, you know?
Yeah, man. So, you know what's funny? It's like I always want, so metal has always been what I've listened to for the most part.
Right.
Like, I kind of grew up on Metallica, Ozzy and all that.
Yeah.
And it never translated into the stuff that I wrote.
Right.
The stuff that I wrote, like, no matter how metal I tried to be, it was always like more alternative than anything else.
Right.
And so as far as like obviously now I'm able to do more than back in the day, but for me, most of it is dark, because it's music is the outlet that I have. It's like all that I have.
Right. And you have to get
stuff out.
Right. You have to get that stuff out that you don't really want to put in other places in your life, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it's, so I don't, perhaps one day I'll be in a place of where the stuff I'm writing is, more, I guess, happy.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think even if your music, here's something interesting. So for me, Metallica, Ozzy, all those places, all those bands you mentioned, influences for me, right? All the big 4 or big 8, if you will, and thrash and all those guys, they're the kind of stuff I listen to. Maybe System of a Down can get included in there, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, dude.
But
yeah, definitely.
When I go to play music and I go to write music, it very often comes out very much more, I don't know how to describe it, like positive vibe, like Van Halen. It still gets out that anger because it gets out that energy, but it's like you can't dictate how it is that you actually create, because you have to let it flow and be natural. And so sometimes it comes down to how your fingers work also,
Yeah.
not just what you're imagining and what you're feeling. Sometimes it's your fingers want to play something else,
Yeah, man. And in all honesty, like, my ability and what I wanted to, like, if I wanted to play something that I had in my head, like, I'd get to the guitar and, I was hindered by my abilities for, even now, I'll hear something, I'll be like, oh man, I really want to, I want to write this down. And then I go to writing it, and it turns out that it's like, it turns out completely different.
Yeah.
Like, and I still use it. I'm like, all right, well, shit, this is what I got. So,
do you ever wonder if, like, even some of the best guys out there, like, let's, for instance, like Tosin Abasi or whatever, that guy from Animals Leaders,
Leaders, yeah.
Does he have the same problem? Does he, like, Oh man, I wish that was.
I don't think.
I wish that was more simple and metal, and it just came out super complicated and convoluted.
Yeah.
Dang it!
Yeah. Hey man, if he does have that problem, that's the way that he has it.
Yeah, exactly.
where me, it's the other way around, and it's because I'm just a shit musician at the end of the day that I can't play the stuff that I want to play.
Yeah, just regular guy. On BandLab.
Yeah, these guys out like Tosin though, and that guy. I mean, my brain hurts just watching and listening.
Right. At the same time, you're like, if I could play like that, you know.
Right. Oh yeah, man. Well, absolutely. You know who else? And I didn't even hear about this band, till maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But Polyphia, or am I saying that right? Let's see.
But I'm not sure how you say it. But yeah.
I think it's Polyphia.
Polyphia. Yeah.
Yeah, not periphery, but Polyphia. Polyphia, I think it's. Anyway, these kids out of high school, man, were like, just complex stuff. Sweeps, where like, the sweep is the natural. A bar chord to me is like a sweep to these guys. And it's just like ridiculous, watching them play these. Yeah,
they're tapping with the right hand like little chords.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah,
what? Did you just tap a chord?
Yeah, and and hitting it like a bass at the same time, bringing slap to the guitar and just playing these complex. Really in the same vein, I think is maybe a Tosin or.
Right.
But for me, it was. I think maybe I was born in '82, right? So
same.
So for me, I actually didn't even get into music until I was probably 14.
Same. So we share the same date lines there.
Yeah, man. We're tracking on this one. And the way that it worked out is I ended up immersing myself in Metallica.
Oh, same.
So I can recall my brother showing me the Black Album and just thinking it was the most awesome thing I'd ever heard.
Yep.
And I grew up in a large family, so it's like most of what my parents listened to was more the classic rock and stuff like that. But then my brother, he introduced me to Metallica, and it was like love at first sight, man.
Right.
I didn't put it down. I bought all of the albums, and
yeah, I liked like Weird Al, Prince, and Crash Test Dummies, and then I found Metallica, and it was like Metallica, Anthrax. I just went through got all the Metallica CDs. Each one was like this era of discovering, and it was like every one of them felt. Nowadays, looking back, they all kind of seemed like they're all Metallica. But at the time, each Metallica album I got, I had the Black Album. Then a friend gave me Load for my birthday, like a week later. And then I went back to the beginning and went every one in order. And I was like, every single one, every couple weeks or week or two, when I got another one, I was like, this is blowing my mind. Each track was just like a new level of discovery. I was on bass mostly though.
See, well, my dad was a bassist. I actually started out as a drummer, and I sucked at drums. And my dad was forcing me to play these simple beats that I did not want to do, so I just gave up on it. And then 3 years later, I picked up a guitar. But yeah, Metallica. So I want to say that. The first song that intro that I ever learned, I realized that I had a little bit of talent,
Yeah.
My buddy played guitar, and he'd been playing for a few years, and I was over at his house, and Diary of a Madman, the intro.
My favorite. One of my favorite things. Oh,
I heard that intro.
I just want to play it. Once you say that, I just want to play it. It's like this. It's like let me move my strap. Damn, strap's hanging down in front.
Yes.
Still can't even do it perfect. You know what I mean? But
that's like pretty much it.
Dude, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, dude. So this guy goes in and he goes to take a shower or whatever, and I grab his guitar and I'm just listening, and by the time he got out of the shower, I was able to play the intro. and he was so pissed off. He's like, how the hell, And I'm like, yeah, because I could hear it. And, I'd find the notes on the guitar, and then, I was able to play it.
Right.
And, after that, I went and bought a guitar. Well, my parents got me a guitar, a piece of shit, Tara.
Yeah.
Tara, which, it broke strings all the time. I had the strings like wound through in different weird ways, like to try to
keep them down enough that they didn't vibrate off the nut.
Yeah, man, it was just a trash guitar, and I had it for years, and
it's like
that was it.
Japanese brand, right?
Honestly, I just remember it was like the Strat style. It was red and white, and it was total garbage. Like, it had a burr in there on the bridge, and it would snap the same G string like every single time.
Oh, man.
I couldn't get over that. But anyways, I eventually moved past that, and I got into a whole slurry of other bands, but yeah, man, it's been a wild journey, really.
Yeah, hey, I see something on your profile, and it always catches my eye. It looks like you're up on a stage, playing up on a stage. Do you play with bands, and have you performed a number of live shows in your time as a musician?
I lived in East Texas. I grew up in East Texas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So originally being from Vermont, my parents moved us out there to Texas when I was like, I don't know, I guess 13 or so. Anyway,
so you had no friends, and you spent 4 hours a day playing guitar.
Yeah, dude, I did. We lived in the country, dude, and right. I wore that guitar, and on some occasions, I literally just play it all day. It was because we lived in the country. There was nothing else, and I loved it anyway. So
right.
No big deal. And anyway, so we ended up. My brother ended up, playing drums. So my parents had there was a bass, guitar, drums, pianos. Like, we had access to everything, but nobody had any interest right off. So we started finding our way. My brother turned out to just be super talented with the drums, and was able to pick up the sticks and just play great rhythms,
Nice.
So with lots of practice and whatever else, we ended up many years later, we ended up meeting this guy. His name was Ben Hines, and he was a guitarist, but we needed a bass player. So he ended up, saying, "Screw it, I'll do the bass." And so we ended up putting some songs together, and 4 years, I want to say, is what it took for us to actually be good enough to start gigging, and we did. And the Dallas scene at that time was just pretty sweet. You got bands like Drowning Pool, was huge at the time, and they were, a local band in Dallas, and they were, doing very well. So we're in this scene, and we ended up just meeting some really cool club owners that were they listened to our demo that we put together, and they're like, usually you need to have at least 50 people to to be able to play a show here, but we're going to give you a shot. And they did. And after that, it was just awesome, man. We ended up headlining
that's way cool.
Yeah, we ended up headlining the Curtain Club. I want to say was 3 months after that. And the picture that you see, though, bringing this back around, that was actually the Ridgely Theater in Fort Worth.
Oh,
and
cool.
I think, it seems like all those places are shut down now because, live music, just didn't. I mean, they weren't able to, sustain for whatever reason, and all these great clubs, are gone now. It's really kind of sad.
Greedy landlords raising the rents.
Yeah, man.
And then you know what? You got to have good musicians, and if they don't pay the musicians a portion, even if that's part of their pocket money because they didn't make enough that night to pay their rent, or whatever it is, and they not pay the musicians, then the musicians don't get better, and the musicians don't keep coming back, and so it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I want to say that retail stores came in and offered a lot more money and ended up buying all these places out.
Right.
And what's hilarious, though, is the retail stores, everybody shops online now, so it's like pointless, and they're gone too.
Yep. Amazon bought those.
Mm-hmm.
So now that they're all empty again and the landlords can't make their rent, it'll be a blessing because there'll be initiatives for people to open up places like this again because of the COVID, like some kind of massive restart. Who knows? Man. We can only hope, right?
Yeah, well, that's really, at the end of the day, like, I'm sure you were the same way growing up, those clubs were like, that's what I had to look forward to in life.
Right.
It was going and seeing, live bands, just driving out and just never knowing, like, what you were going to stumble into.
Yep.
But,
even some guys with Line 6 Spider 3 amps, 2 of them, in stereo, could blow your mind if they sounded just good enough. You know what I mean? It didn't matter.
Yeah, man.
You never knew.
You know what? The truth is, the clubs that we played at in Dallas, all of them had amazing, like, Curtains had like $1 million sound system.
The song we're playing right now is called Promises. It has a picture of Curtain Club.
Yeah, which is closed down, unfortunately, too. Yeah, man, I actually posted something on there. One of the coolest things, like, as a musician, we were in the green room of, it was actually the Trees Club.
Yep.
In Dallas, and there was like a wall of like signatures and band stickers.
Yeah.
And dude, I saw Kurt Cobain's name signature like on the wall in there. It was the coolest thing I'd ever experienced.
Yeah.
Just knowing these people that were there at a point and place in time.
Right.
And just that experience, like, all of that was just huge for me.
You know what? I think they leave a little. It's like just like if something bad happens, there's kind of like a bad vibe in the place forever, and when something good happens, there's like a kind of a piece of that good vibe there forever. I always thought about that when I was playing a venue, like, Chris Cornell was on the stage one time or whatever,
Yeah.
And you were saying something about that in the messages. You're saying how many great people came out of the Seattle area, and I was like just thinking to myself, the only reason is because that vibe was sitting there in all those rooms. And it was the Jimi Hendrix vibe on top of the Heart vibe, on top of the Queensryche vibe, on top of and all these bands just amassed this vibe in all these clubs. And it is sad because they've closed, and now I feel like some of that vibe is kind of forever lost. I mean, it's still out there, it's on the streets, but...
Well, it's like deleting history, man.
It is.
It's like, because, these places... Once they're turned over, I mean, who knows? They're gutted, and
right.
All's lost, really, in that respect. Yep. And it's super sad because, for someone like myself, I mean, like, the formative years and just, even just the nostalgia, just sitting here and remembering, like, the feeling and the way it was. I mean, it was just truly an amazing thing, and.
Yeah. Those bands are all behind me. How about you? They all behind you now?
Oh, yeah. Right now, I mean, so the band that we were actually a 3-piece group. So it was just myself, my brother, and Ben. So my brother actually only lives about 15 minutes up the road from me. And he's actually, he actually came to me, I think, a couple of weeks ago now, and wants to get a project, up and running again.
Did you tell him to go on BandLab?
Yeah, man.
Because my brother raps, and I put his music out on BandLab, and he still is only on there like once every 6 months. It's like, dude, come on,
right?
Rap on a track once a week. You got all these lyrics. Just all you got to do is sit down with your phone, bro.
Yeah, man, we're cut. I mean, my brother. I would think that he'd be like me in the way that you'd want to, kind of, at least, if you're not in a band and you're not playing, at least, so people ask me why I'm on BandLab and why not do this or why not do that. Why are you putting all this content out there? And you know what? My answer to that is because I'm actually writing this stuff down. I'm recording it, right. And it's going out there, and at least I feel like I'm kind of doing something, right?
Right. I always think of it like this, like even if I were to, let's say if I were to record these same songs and then not put them on BandLab, but just put them only on my through DistroKid, put them on like iTunes and Spotify. First off, I would get way less plays and way less interaction. I would just get my mom listening, maybe, to like 1/10 of what I made. And then my wife listens to them all before I put them on there, so she's like, I don't need to listen to them on Spotify. I already heard that while you were writing it for 6 hours, and then my brother's like, yeah, it's cool when you make this kind of music. So he only likes a certain chunk of what I do, and and one of my childhood friends is listening to everything, but only like once a month he goes through and listens to it all. Leave some good comments, but if I were to do that, that's all I would get. I would get no comments, and I would get like little messages here and there, or that was a cool song, I heard that one song. But I put it on BandLab, and I get interactions, I get criticisms. It's like being back in that band room, in that practice space. And I don't miss being famous, because I was never famous. The only thing I miss is actual jamming with some people, and getting that, that energy when you do it perfect. And you do this, right. He does the drums perfect, he did the bass perfect, you did the guitar perfect, and whoever was singing did the singing perfect, or, fuck it, you did the instrumental version perfect, and it was epic. It was so epic that afterwards you had chills, and you're like, oh, we're not going to play that anymore tonight. That was perfect, And that's the stuff I miss the most. I can get that if I can get a really good recording. I can get a version of that. And if I can get two people to go, awesome, on BandLab, I'm like, yes. That was that was that vibe. I got it again,
Yeah, bro, and it's also kind of like a musical diary,
right? Right.
You got like this timeline. It's actually kind of scary to think, how long I've been on BandLab now. I mean,
how long?
I don't even know.
18, 2016, what?
I think it's been. If it's not 4 years, it's close to it.
Right. I'm like 3 years in a few months.
I might be over 4 years. I have no. One thing I'm just gonna throw this out there. I have no concept of time whatsoever. It's like,
Except for when you're playing a riff, then you got concept of time right there.
Right. Yeah. Well, as good as I can. That's the best of my ability. But yeah, it's been a minute, man, and one thing I gotta say about yourself, and I know I kind of spoke to this a little bit the other day, is the fact that you can do all the stuff that you do. I don't know how you find the time, man. I mean, you gotta have more energy than like most people I've met anyway.
Dude, I have tons of energy. It's unbelievable.
You got so many things happening.
I usually only sleep a few hours a night. I've been sleeping a lot more lately since I quit smoking pot. Pot was actually kind of more like, think of it like, it was like, I wouldn't say it's like doing a line because doing a line, then you're like crazy over the top. But it was like, I'm an ADD person with no focus. And then, excuse me, I had a burp there. That was a weird burp. But then I would smoke a joint, or I would, do a dab or whatever. I don't know if you smoke at all, but I would do something like that, and maybe you don't want to say because you got a job and we're on social media. But
well, no, I have. I mean, it's you know, yeah.
Some people they smoke and they're stupid and they get the munchies. Other people they drink and they're angry. If I drink, I get really goofy and I don't focus at all. So I don't drink much. I'll have like a beer, right? Yeah. But if I would smoke pot, I would actually like clean more or get in a mode. Really? I would go do something and get in a mode. And like so
locked in.
Yeah, I would just get locked in on it, you know. So if I was playing guitar and I leaned back over here and I smoked half a joint, then I was just playing guitar for like 3 hours. And my recording started way back, all the way back. Like when I was first getting into music, you know, I was like, you know, going online and looking up the tabs and finding the tabs that had the check marks that had like 4 check marks for a quarter note, 2 check marks for an eighth, and the notes right next to each other, you know, for a 16th, and you could kind of actually almost tell. I would listen to a song, listen to the tab, translate the tab into drawing MIDI, and draw songs in MIDI. After I did like a couple Pantera songs and a couple Metallica songs, like Metallica 1 and Pantera's This Love, in translating them from tabs online into MIDI in the early 90s, or late 90s, I mean, when I was like 15. Then I started doing that and making my own songs. I would like make a riff and do that. That was so tedious that now we're
that sounds insane, man.
It's insane, and they're all on there. On my page, I kept them all. I have like 88 songs that I made, note by note, drawn out. Right, so I would maybe 40 of them are lost. Right, and I would just sit there all day long. Right. Now that I have actual equipment that lets me just record the actual guitar and not have to program it and then double check and scoot things around and make sure it's what I was playing, it's so much easier, you know. And so ever since 2003, when I started having recording stuff, 2004, I just get quicker and quicker and quicker at recording. Some of those songs I do, it's just me like I was playing with the band, you know.
Right.
You know, it's just as quick as a practice. You know, how long does it take to practice a song? 5 times or 6 times. Well, it takes like an hour. Well, how long does it take to record a song? Like an hour and a half, maybe 3, if I want to do like a solo or the drums are really complicated, you know, or something. Do you program your drums, by the way? Randomly asking.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do also.
You know, it's a tedious process, and you know, I know it's. You know, my brother criticizes me all the time.
But you know what? It kind of forms the song. It lays down the song format for you. And because you make it yourself, you can kind of edit it and tweak it if you get an idea in the middle, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so what is your writing process?
Usually my writing process is I have an idea, and it's just like an idea in my head. And so I make drums that idea would fit. And then I pick up the guitar, and it's like, well, that's not exactly the idea, but it does fit the drums. Record that.
Yeah, and I think we're a lot more alike
than we knew.
Seriously, because anytime people talk to me about that, they're always kind of like, wow, you know, when I say that I do the drums first, because for me, like. And this actually maybe kind of opens up the bandwidth a little bit as far as like the topic. But whenever I was in bands, you know, the more instruments that were live, the more ideas I had, right?
Right.
So, you know, the more I'm able to, you know, the creativity is able to kind of bounce around a little bit off from, you know, more elements and whatever. But for some reason, like, drums are always like the most inspiring part of, you know, of my writing process. If I can program something that I really like, I will come up with stuff that is decently good.
Sometimes,
you know?
I'll make a drum track that's so good, I'll make 3 completely different songs to it. No one can even tell. No one can tell.
Yeah, man. You change the tempo a little bit, and nobody will be able to. I've done the same.
Nobody knows.
You don't want to sit there for an hour and a half screwing around with the frickin'.
I scooted the hi-hat down to the up to the ride, and the ride down to the hi-hat. Boom, different song, new inspiration.
Yeah, seriously. And the funny thing is, like, if let's say that I write something, I got this song that the drums just really worked well, and it's at 130 beats per minute. Man, I'll pull it back to like 80 and just take a listen and see what I think. And hell, hey, now it's a slow song and it doesn't. The drums. There's no way. Nobody's ever been able to pick up on it.
No, I've told drummers about that, and they're like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Listen to those two." They're like, "Huh." Like, wait, huh? That's it? Okay, Matt Dunlap. All right.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's you know, those are the you know, that's a pro tip right there. Exactly.
One thing I'll say is when I played in bands, I'd play in a band, and the drummer, the level of creativity of the drummer didn't dictate the level of creativity of the band. It was just the level of skill. If the drummer could play with fire in his feels, it didn't have to be amazing drums. It didn't have to be like.
Well, hold on now.
And then
hold on though. If it's not amazing, then you got to tell them what to do so it will become amazing. Drummers love that.
Drummers do love that. Don't to anybody else in a new band at age 20. Don't do that to your drummer. He may never come back.
Man, he won't come back. It's a guarantee.
I always would be like, that's amazing. And then at most, it would be after a recording that the guy would go, "Oh, I could have done more." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's re-record it then."
Yeah, man. And you know, it's an odd thing, you know. And sorry to stereotype, you know, drummers, but and I'm, you know, obviously not everybody's the same. But I'm going to use my brother as an example, just because I like to bust his balls. Pretty thin-skinned, man. You know.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's kind of been a running thing here.
Yep.
My brother, we had a session going. This is back when we were doing our demo, and me and the bass guy, he was just sitting there. He kept tuning that snare, like, and we're like, "What the hell, man? You know, let's get the show on the road." And he's like, "My nuts are stripped." He's like, "You know, the nuts are stripped." And man, me and the bass player ran with it. We're like, you know, and then every time we go into the room with this guy, we'd be like, "Are your nuts stripped today?" You know, like, you know, been working overtime. You know, but anyways, yeah, you know, that's just a little sidebar there.
Sometimes I noticed they're the bassists might not show up, but they meant to show up. Drummers didn't show up, and they knew it was practice day, and they're just being flaky and shit like that. The drummers are kind of like perfectionists with a little bit of ego mixed in. Bassists are kind of just like, they just genuinely forgot because they had too many beers, you know?
Yeah.
And then they tried to get there, but they couldn't get there because they were too drunk, you know?
Yeah, man. Another thing with drummers is they like to play, like, when you're trying to actually talk and say, "Okay, let's go ahead and add some more dynamic here. Let's do this," and then you got the drums just going full bore in the background.
And they
can't even hear over
or they flop the snare off, and now it's like they're playing a reggae song. You're like, dude, come on, man. Are we trying to make a song here or what? You're trying to come up with ideas and show the bassist, and he's sitting over there going, you're like, fuck, man. What the hell is this, dude? Too much Bob Marley, bro.
Yeah, man. I definitely stole his cowbell too, man. You know, that damn effing cowbell. It was just, you know, breaking my, you know, and I have like 60% hearing loss in my left ear. My brother was in the center stage on my left.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goddamn Z symbol, Zildjian Z, just killed. So people will be like, "Oh, you know, there's a lot of high, you know, noise, you know, the sizzle or whatever in your mixings." Well, that's because I don't have the highs anymore.
I don't hear it.
Yeah. I'm putting too many in.
I guess I added it.
It's an issue. It's an issue I have.
Yep.
But it's you know, it's been music is a journey, man. It's just been it's been wild.
Right.
to see where I started and where I'm at now. It's just
I was
like,
actually getting to this stage where a few musicians I played with had died. I was kind of sad about it. The guy that booked most of my shows died in a fire. No fire alarm, but they made new laws in Seattle.
God.
Died holding his dog, and then down in the basement.
Jesus, man.
He didn't burn alive or anything like that. He just, the smoke was too much, and he was asleep at the time, so he just breathed it in, not knowing, and basically died a very peaceful death. But regardless, we lost him, and he was the one that booked so much of our shows and kind of ran the Seattle underground metal and punk scene. And so, I got to this point where I wasn't playing with these guys anymore. There was no chance that if we did reunite that we could just go call up Gibby and just have a show. Like you said, a lot of these places were kind of just fizzling away, so there was less and less of them. And I got to this point where I was like, I'm going to make 5 really good songs, and I'm going to end this. I'm going to kind of just go back to just jamming in my room, and that's it. I'm not going to try and be recording cool music. I'm not going to try and be a creator. And I put those 5 songs on BandLab. Well, that was my mistake right there. I've been on fire ever since.
Yeah, man. You write great stuff. I listened to your latest release that you did.
The winter
It was
stuff?
actually just man. It was instrumental. You have some seriously good stuff there. Like, I mean, it's
Thank you.
And the thing is, like, when I release something, it's kind of like, oh man, is this gonna, is this gonna blow my eardrum? Like, my mixing is just, I have so much more to go, like, to figure things out. It's crazy, man. But all those songs, like the levels, everything flowed nice, and it was just really just and you were able to also, and I have ADHD.
So do I. Really bad.
Your ability though to write something that is all cohesive and just it really didn't have a song that really was out of place, like not supposed to be in the circle. And that's pretty impressive, man.
If I would have made
Honestly.
3 more, that would have happened, I'm sure. Because that's not exactly my style. It was kind of outside of my normal... It's not that I don't play that kind of music, it's just that I don't play that kind of music as much. I only have so many chords to go to. Now, the crazy thing is about my musicianship is that I not only remember the seating arrangement in 4th grade, but I also remember all the riffs to all my songs. And it's kind of annoying. Because it feels like it's like a roadblock to doing the same riff again. And I had someone that told me this story about how Pink Floyd, who I love, by the way, uses the same riffs over and over. And they would have to sue themselves if they were on, Content ID or whatever, because they used the same riffs in different songs. And that's when I went, shit, well, why can't I do that? I don't fucking care. If it's one of mine, I can just do it again, a different way. So that's one thing that I don't even think people notice that maybe one song has a riff that another one does. Not necessarily on the same album or in the same group, but, some of the Portal People songs have some of the same music that's in one of the Stoner tracks or something, And no one will really know. No one will know I use that same progression and harmony feel or whatever going on there. And another thing is, I try to I try to almost copy something and change it, which is like a form of plagiarism, if you will, but it's really not.
What though? It's really, so here's the thing with that. So I wasn't in love with punk music. I was actually more into the screamo, like during the Blink-182 thing. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
My brother, that's all he wanted to play was punk music. So I'm like, well, screw it. At least I can be in a band. And we actually were in a pretty successful band, a punk band.
Yeah.
Anyway, one day I went to my like songs list or whatever of Blink-182, And I think it's Cacophony.
Yeah.
It's one of their songs. I was listening to it and I'm like, man, that's so awesome. And I'm like, I started just looping the intro and writing lyrics and, to just for the hell of it anyways. And I'm like trying to, the way it translated through me was completely different than that song was. And there's like going back and listening to that recording, I could listen to it and say, oh, you can't even tell that I was, even messing with that. And it ended up being something on its own. And I think Breaking Benjamin is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Big time Korn fans, and anytime he tried to write Korn riffs, he ended up with the stuff he has, which this kind of also speaks to the point, in the beginning of the call. It's, you might like this type of music and you might want to produce like a sound that's like this, but when it comes out of yourself and it's, you're true to yourself with, your music, when that comes out, it's going to end up being yours, and it's not going to be Korn. It's not going to be this band or that band. It's going to be you, at the end of the day, unless you're, the type of player
unless
that
you're
doesn't have a lot of,
or one of those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Because
sure.
you're like I said, your hands kind of change it. Your hands do you. No matter how great the song is, if I send it to my old bandmate, the bassist in my band, I'll send it to his wife and she'll just put it on. And he'll just sit up from his drinking or his resting at night or hanging out or whatever, they're playing poker, and he'll just sit up and go, "Is that Chris Burns?" And his wife will be like, "Dang it! He knew," and she'll immediately message me, "Yeah, he instantly knew."
Yeah, man. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't matter what
that's
genre.
Your individuality,
Yeah, he can just tell because he played so much with me. He can tell my timing and everything,
Yeah.
And one thing I was gonna say is,
cool.
Like when it comes to the inspirations thing or whatever, like, I would do the same thing. I will do the same thing. I'll draw on something, but it never stays the same. It never stays the same as what I drew it from. But every once in a while, someone can tell. They go, "Oh, it has a really this artist vibe," and I'm
influence.
Like, "Dang it!" I'm like, "Dang it,
for sure."
You knew. But then every once in a while, they go, "It has this artist vibe," and I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't even thinking that at all." And another thing. Another thing is I also watch a lot of like YouTube tutorials, and then just run with what they're teaching and take it my direction. So that makes it, there's a whole bunch of information out there, So.
Yeah, for sure. I would say one of the something that I heard actually sort of recently. So I kind of got lost in this gent world of like trying to figure out like these complicated rhythms and all this stuff. And what's stupid is the amount of time that I put into it, and I literally never actually got that far down that road. Like I really did.
No, you can't force yourself somewhere that you're not supposed to go. You can't. No matter how hard you try, that will actually soften your ability, your creative ability.
Yeah, it hinders. It does.
Yeah.
It does hinder.
Yeah.
You, because you end up you're mentally too you're too vested in the mental like thinking aspect,
right?
And where you want the stuff to flow out of you.
And we were talking about this on the previous last Monday with I was talking to Jason Jacobs, and we were talking about how those guys like Eddie Van Halen and those guys like Yngwie Malmsteen or whatever, or Joe Satriani. Right. The reason they're good is not because they have some unobtainable talent. It's more that they practice just like us did, but like we did, but they have this ability to let it go through them naturally, flow through them, let the mistakes be bent, be fly. They have an improvisational gift. So they're even improvising their own songs. Then that means that they're able to, because they're letting it go through them, they're able to do their song, because obviously they know their song, they practiced it millions of times or whatever till it was redoable. But I don't think they create with this entire like written out thing like Bach would or something like that, right? They are more, they're guitarists just like us, and they let it go through them, and it's about those best of the best are like, Tosin Abasi or whatever, all those guys, they have an ability to relax, not get overly mental on it. And it might seem super complicated to us if we were to try and mentalize it. But if we're not trying to mentalize it, we actually get closer and closer to it. The thing is with Gent or Tosin or even a certain Van Halen solo, it's really hard to get anywhere without mentalizing it, without really wrapping yourself in it mentally,
Yeah, counting it out, and which I assume that's what they do. They got to be counting something.
Or they're not. Jerks.
Or they're just like, flying off the cuff. I mean, I don't know, 95% of any songs that I've written in a band has come from jamming. We jam until we find something we like.
Right.
And we are always recording, because when the sessions are over, I'm going to go back through, filter through it, and take the stuff that I think was the best, and I'm going to form a song using that material. Kind of like
my buddy
in the journalism world.
My buddy I played with forever. He was also into punk. Oh, this will work in two things. He was also into punk, so I knew a whole bunch of MXPX, No Effects, Green Day, all the stuff that he loved. I had to learn it all, right? Because I had to play the drums when he wanted to jam it. But when he would make a riff, I would be sitting there on the drums and watching what he's playing, and then I'd go home and play it. And then the next time we'd go to practice, he'd be like, I wish I remembered that riff. And I'd go over to the guitar and I'd be like this one? And he goes, yeah, that's the one. Show me that. And I'd show him it. So he wouldn't record. I was just this guy that would remember. I have a good memory.
You were the flash drive.
I was the flash drive back then, And I found that if we recorded it, everything was shittier. We're like, that was a really unproductive night. And we'd always go, well, that's because we were recording it. We got to not record next week. We didn't record the next week, and everything was awesome. Damn it, if you hit record, everything sucks. No videos allowed at the show, or the show will suck.
Yeah, man. There is something about, like, for some reason, when you go to record it, maybe it's because it's recording. I don't know what it is, but whenever we were jamming, we'd get an hour in, and we'd be going over the bar, man, like, Tool style stuff where it's just like really amazing, and then we're like, oh shit, we didn't record that.
It wasn't recording. Damn it!
It's lost in the ethers, and then 5 seconds later, I couldn't remember.
No, like, that happens too.
That is something. Memory of like stuff that we would do in practices. I did get better at it. I'm not amazing with it, but that took years to develop.
Right.
Everything with music takes forever.
Now, the more I smoked pot in the band, the more we would get over the top. The more we all smoked pot as a band, the more over the top we would get, and the more inclined to totally forget it and not remember to hit record. More of that would occur as well. So, damn two-sided coin.
Yeah, man.
Or beer would do the same thing. Yeah.
That's one cool thing about playing shows I always liked was that you got free drinks, which I thought was awesome.
Right.
Especially at that age, where I kind of did most of my drinking. But one of the cool, like the perks of playing shows, like we did Six Flags 1 year, and we got these wristbands that. It was better than a speed pass. If you had a speed pass and I had the wristband, I could cut in front of you and I could sit on the ride as long as I wanted. I didn't even have to get off.
It was like you're an employee.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Was that perk.
We played a bar that was attached by a hallway, or not a hallway, like an open doorway without any doors on it, like a double-sized door, to a Mexican restaurant. And we all got a free Mexican meal.
Well, if it was Tex-Mex, it was worth it.
It was so good. It was so good, dude. I got a triple enchilada, 1 cheese, 2 chicken. Oh man, went home full.
You know, that's one thing I miss about Texas is there's no Tex-Mex out here really to speak of.
Right.
It's all garbage.
Yeah.
So every time we go out there, I got to get my fill.
You're in Massachusetts?
Really, Yeah.
And your brother's also in Massachusetts?
Well, he's in Bennington, Vermont, and I'm in Williamstown, Massachusetts, which is northwestern Mass.
Okay.
So basically, it's the other side of it. It's Boston.
Right,
like
the other side of it.
3.5 hours.
Right. Yeah.
It's always a shit drive if I got to go out there.
Yeah, but it's really easy to drive into the next state over and see your brother.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We actually.
What got you guys to go out there?
So for us, it was kind of, work really. It's how that is what that boils down to.
Yeah.
I was doing business sales for quite a while. Actually, I pulled out of that a few years back and started my own business, but we had a lot of opportunity options out here, and we had good opportunity in Dallas too. But if I'm being completely honest,
there's probably better pay.
I like the seasons.
Yeah. There's that.
I do. I can recall, summers in Texas where it didn't go below like 100 degrees, and it's just killer,
Right.
And I actually don't mind the cold weather, it doesn't bother me. It's actually a nice change. And
hey man, I jet ski in a t-shirt and shorts in the wintertime, so there's no cold weather bothering me.
And it definitely gets cold out there too. I mean, we're basically opposite sides of the U.S.
Yep. I'm 47th parallel. I'd say you're probably 45th, 46th in that zone. But yeah.
Yep. And we might actually end up moving to northern Vermont soon. It's a possibility, but
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there's still actually if you can believe this, there's actually more of a scene up in northern Vermont right now than there is in Dallas, Texas right now.
Well, it probably makes sense, because I think maybe Dallas will probably start getting it back now that all the Californians are moving out of there to Texas. But it kind of makes sense because if you think about it, it has to be, you have to have a kind of a mix of people, not just Democrats and not just Republicans. You have to have a mix and a reason to mingle and that kind of stuff. And also, I think places go in phases. They'll get real hot, and then as they see these clubs getting hotter, the rent wants to hike up the price, and then eventually they're gone, and then the whole thing kind of filters down, and then people are able to start places again, and then the rent starts to go up. And I think that's why the Seattle scene was so big in the 90s, is because in the 80s everyone went to LA, and so it was dead by the time 1988 came around, and so any band could play there. And when those bands develop actually playing live shows, they actually get really good, and they can go into a studio and actually record what they play. And so I think it has to do with it's kind of like everything. There's phases, just like the seasons, and they're longer phases. They're like 15, 20-year phases. But I think slowly, since it's been like 10 years now, slowly you're going to start seeing stuff in Texas kind of recreate itself, and even though up there the scene's probably also dictated by the fact that the weather's not so good, so you want to go to a bar indoors, and in Texas you can kind of just go for a walk or just ride your bike or whatever, you can do anything. But in places like Washington where it's raining and just shit weather, you want to go in somewhere. You'll go out and have a cigarette outside, but then you want to go back in because it's cold. And so people will actually watch the bands. They'll actually drink at the bar, you know, stuff like that. Where at Texas, you could just put the smoker on and buy your own beer, and you'll save money and eat more. So I don't know. I think that things do go in phases, you know.
Yeah, you know, New York City is actually emptied out pretty hard right now. I think, you know, you know, it's really
2005 to 2010, it was in its explosion time. Now it's 10 years later, and it's getting to the very bottom of its curve, you know. Dying.
Yeah, man, and the corona thing too. I think
yep,
a lot of people just couldn't sustain. You know,
too many Democrats just closing everything down.
Well, you know, I always try to stay neutral, but I'm
pretty centered. I'm more of a libertarian. Yeah. You know, I just want my freedom.
Yeah, same here, man. Yeah. Taxation is theft. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if I could have it my way, people would do whatever the hell they wanted, and we'd just be left the hell alone.
Right, same. And we can call for theft, we can call for violence, and otherwise the police can just stop ticketing people, you know, for no reason. How about you ticket him when he runs into something, you know, not just for driving a little too fast, you know?
Yeah, you know, not to get into anything political here, I think the police should have to, well, the selection needs to be better.
Yeah.
You know,
I've always said this.
They're just letting anybody that was picked on in school and now they want to wear a badge. I think that we need to weed those ones out.
Yeah. I think it should be 1 out of every 5 days is training.
Yeah. You know what? This is kind of interesting. What do you think? Maybe we pay them more money and they have a degree.
Yeah, there you go. And then you really have like 3 cops left.
You know.
No, but yeah, I know what you mean. No, you don't. You pay them more money and you make them get a degree. You don't make them.
Yeah.
You don't take their hand and like put it in the fire. But you say this. Look, I know you only make $17 an hour for risking your life. You know, it doesn't feel that good. But did you know that we give you $20,000 when you get your bachelor's degree, and that we also give you a pay increase of $6 an hour, and that we pay for your school when you're a cop? So why don't you go to school and get educated, and then you'll have more money in your pocket and a sweet chunk after 5 years of staying in the force after getting your education. So it's initiative to stay there, not just get your degree and walk away. So you got to get your degree and stay on the force for 5 years, and you get an increase of $5 an hour. It's kind of like any good union job, you know. And by the way, you need to be doing police-related training every Friday. You're on Friday. Your buddy over there is on Thursday, and every single one of you guys, 1 day a week, is doing nothing but training on etiquette in the proper way. You know?
The rest of you F off.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, get out of here.
Get out!
You're just going to be in dispatch, so.
Anyway, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So, you know what? As far as, you know, getting back into the music.
Yeah.
You and I have not done a song.
I know, we haven't. We totally could.
We need to.
Yeah. Do something Do something where you just leave a bass line out. Or, I don't know, maybe that's not writing together enough. I know what we could do. Even though we probably don't actually use BandLab as our... you use a different DAW? Let me ask you.
Yeah, I use Cubase.
Okay, you use Cubase. I used Cubase for a long time. I used Cubase from 99 to 2005. 2005 or so is when I transitioned into GarageBand, right? And they have GarageBand on my phone.
I was going to ask. So do you do GarageBand, or are you using what the hell? You know, the one beyond
Logic?
GarageBand. What is it? Yeah, Logic Pro.
No, I just use mobile GarageBand on my phone.
Everything you do is through GarageBand.
Everything I do is on my iPhone 6.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah. So it's on my iPhone 6. I use but what I do is, I went to school for electronics, and I work at Boeing. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
So I went to school for electronics, and when I was in electronics, I learned something really cool. Is that impedance matching is the most important part of transferring power effectively. So if I were to take my guitar and plug it directly in to my interface, my analog to digital interface that plugs into my phone, it's going to be one stage of preamp from 300 milliamps of energy that the guitar puts out all the way up to that 2 watts that you would need, right? And so that you're going to have to use emulators. Well, you can get a pretty good sound these days with emulators, right? Second thing you could do is you could go and you could plug your guitar into an amp. Then you could mic it. But if you put a mic in, your mic is 1,000 impedance. And the thing is, these systems, these A to D converters, they work best closer to 20,000 impedance. But what puts out?
So you're flying. So you're going way over my head here.
Okay, so let's just say this. Think of impedance like this. You got your guitar amp, like your guitar head for your show, with a cabinet, right? Yep. And if you plug in your
8
guitar,
ohms or 4 ohms.
So do you have a 212 or a 412 at all?
Yeah, I got the oversized slant.
So let's say you plug into your oversized slant and your amp has the wrong impedance. You're going to be like, this is quiet, and you accidentally switched it when you brought it home after a gig. You're like, this is really quiet. Why is this quieter? And you're actually at risk of blowing your speaker. And if you switched it the opposite direction, you'd be at risk of blowing your tubes, or if it's solid state, you're probably not going to blow anything. You could fry it if it was way hot.
Yeah, no, it's a tube amp.
Right, so it's a tube amp. You might blow a tube, or you might get some of that white powder in your tube if your impedance is off, right? And speakers are really...
Oh, man, I gotta... Yeah.
Speakers are really kind of not exact. Speakers are like 6.5, even though they say 8. So there was always kind of a discrepancy. The better speakers, higher power speakers, are going to be looser with their impedance. But impedance matching controls how much of that sound goes through. Another, for instance, is if you have a certain amp, and let's say it's like a Fender amp. It's really bright. And then you plug a Fender into it, and it's super, super bright. But if you plug a Gibson into it, there's a little bit of an impedance match going, because the Fender amp was designed for those single coils and 240K pots and whatever. And you put a Fender amp with a Gibson into it, and it actually sounds quite good. Or you got a Marshall with a Fender into it, and it sounds quite good, right?
Yeah.
So there's these things, and they kind of change how the sound goes through. Well, when I was in electronics, I kind of had an epiphany. And what I figured out is that when I have my mic plugged directly into my PreSonus A to D converter, it's never as good as if I have my mic plugged into a mixer that's plugged into my converter. That's how you kind of... seriously. Even that fixed $100 Behringer mixer makes it sound 2 times better.
So you're running through a mixer into, a 2i2 or...
So it's a audio box i2, 2 inputs going into my phone, and then the mixers left and right go into that mixer. And then if I'm recording guitar in stereo, I'll pan one left and one right and use 2 mics. Yeah. And because it goes through the mixer, it actually can be hotter and more alive.
All right, so you are using, so it is live sound then. Like you're using.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't use any emulators or any of that stuff. That's sweet. It's too difficult for me. I just sit there and listen to my amp till it sounds like I want it to sound, and then I go into my headphones and move the speakers until they sound like it just sounded before, and then I'm like, then I don't touch. My microphones, and then I don't touch my microphones I haven't touched them in 2 years because they're in the right spot.
Yeah, man. I mean, so everything I do is by ear.
Yep.
I mean, the hearing that I have left, I try to utilize it the best I can. So it's my setup has changed so dramatically, like 3 or 4 times. Right. So when I first got on BandLab, I had nothing. Right. I was just playing into a phone, and then I noticed that iRig came into the scene, and I got the $25, iRig that I plugged into the iPhone, and it allowed me for a direct instrument connection.
Yep.
So,
and that's a pretty good sound. That's about as good as, to me, I would say that's as good as a microphone right into your converter.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I've had a Mesa Boogie since 2003, right?
Yep.
It was I don't know if they're still hand making them now, but I had a signature for every thing that's in that head. Right. That somebody had to sign off on.
I used to have a VHT, and it was just like that. You know who about VHT, Fryette?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I used to have, and I'm working my way back. I have a line 6 going into a VHT stereo power amp with KT88s, and I'm going
Did Jerry Cantrell use that for a while?
He uses Soldano into VHT. Soldano preamps into VHTs.
Okay,
Soldano is a local Seattle guy, and he used VHT stuff. Now, I think maybe for a short period of time when he did like Boggy Depot, he actually got in, and he actually had VHT, and then he went back to Soldano amps. But I've also seen him at a show where he had Laney amps. So
yes, yeah. So he uses two different ones. I know that much. Yeah. He's got two different ones. He's running stereo in. The thing is, so I had this Mesa Boogie that it's a 150 watt monster, right?
Yeah.
The triple rectifier. Yeah. Which was great when we were doing like venues or like whatever. I mean,
when you had a real drummer playing in the room, you have to have something like that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And the thing, it'd be hilarious. Like I'd play in bands with these guys that had like full Marshall stacks, and the headroom that the Mesa Boogie ate up with that oversized slant was just ridiculous.
Yep.
So back to BandLab. So I'm like, how the hell am I going to make this work? Because it's way too loud, even at the lowest setting.
Right.
And anybody that knows tube amps knows that you got to kind of open it up a little bit to let it breathe, to get the best tone.
Unless it's a Fryette.
Unless it's a Fryette.
Fryette has this switch where you have what's called low power, and also
and I think
they have this different kind of way of doing master volume. When it's almost all the way down, it sounds the same. I don't know how they do it, but they also make amazing things called power stations, which basically are just that circuit. Yeah, it's just that circuit because they are known for being able to do that. But back to the story, so you couldn't get the right sound without blowing up the volume, right?
Right. Well, so I wasn't able to utilize the Mesa Boogie because I had to go direct in to these. So all that to say, I had to use programs like iRig, like IK Multimedia had some like pretty good amp sims and whatever.
Right.
And I really wanted that Mesa to write with because I used it for so many years on stage and just whatever else.
Yep.
And also, did you ever get into what the hell is the name of that band? This was a Texas group, but this is gonna kill me. Anyways, I stole this idea from the guitarist they had, where he had the Boogie, but the way he did the speakers is he did two Ubershaws and two Celestion in an X pattern. And the cool thing is the Ubers didn't break up with palm mutes. Because it allowed the bass to roll through them without breakup, and then you had the Celestians that were breaking up.
Yep.
So you had this great sound.
Yes.
They always two mics, one on each speaker, and it just had this amazing sound. So I had this like setup, and I'm like, doing the BandLab thing. Yeah. Didn't have a space to where I could let that thing open up. So I'm like, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an attenuator, and I'm going to make this work.
Yep.
So I ended up buying the Mesa Boogie. They had this cheap, like $250. It wasn't an actual attenuator, but it did the same thing.
Right.
You just had to watch the levels that you pushed into it, so you didn't melt the circuitry.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think that thing was one of the best sounds I had for recording. Like, it was cheap, but man, it really did sound great. Like the impulse response that they had built into this thing was pretty nice. So I ended up selling that, and I got the big new thing at the time, which was the aux.
You have that?
Yeah.
You have that? You still use that?
No, I sold it.
Oh, now what are you doing?
So the thing with the aux is it was great, but it didn't really offer a lot of options at that time for the heavier music. So anyways, I ended up selling the aux, and they did update it before I sold it, and they added these metal cabs and all this stuff. But anyways, be that as it may, I sold it, and I ended up putting the Mesa Boogie in the closet, and I picked up an Axe FX.
Oh, sweet.
It is sweet, but
it's a whole new learning curve, though. I bet you.
It is that. But I've had it for a little while now. I've been using it for, I want to say since probably August.
Okay. Okay.
Anyways, I got the Axe FX2 with the command whatever foot controller that has 15 preset. Well, you can bank up through as many as you want.
Right.
But it has the scene switching and all this great stuff, which is great.
You want to know what my problem is with the Axe FX?
Yeah.
When I switch something on it, which is why I will never own one, because I always want to go back and play live. When I switch channels, there's a second of silence. Not a second, but
really?
There's just this little microscopic millisecond of silence. And I always hit at the moment I change. Not like a second before, but at the moment, like I'm playing the drums. And and my first note will be gah! Like a second of silence. You won't hear the attack of it. And it's damn it.
Which Axe FX was it?
Axe FX 2, and that's why Metallica runs.
It was.
Axe FX 2 and for their clean, and Axe FX 2 for their distortion, and a switcher that switches between them, so they're always on the clean and always on the distortion. And then when they go to different distortions, they'll have a roadie back there changing the clean to this different distortion, or changing the distortion to the next, and they have a whole set list of how to do that for them according to their set list. So that's something I know about. Line 6, I have the same problem with it, but that's why I plan at some point to change the Line 6 to something else.
Yeah. So I would say that, any pedal that I've owned, I've never owned a pedal that was just completely seamless.
Right.
And I guess maybe I'm just kind of used to that.
Yeah.
And I really haven't had too much issue in that realm with the Axe, but generally, I don't know. I mean, I actually haven't played with it live. So
for 10 years, maybe a little longer, I played with this VHT Pippo Ultra Lead. And what it had is it had a clean channel that you could put a boost off and on. When you hit the boost, it just went. There was no click, there was no sound, there was no silence. Then you had a second channel, and the boost was either on or off. And then the third channel, and the boost was always on. So it's like a clean, rhythm, and or gainy one that... The clean has two levels. If you set it clean while playing, but if you played hard, it's got a slightest amount of breakup. Then you hit the boost, and it's kind of broken up, kind of a bluesy, overdrivey thing. Then you go to the next channel you hit both the boost and the next channel at the same time. Now you're on distortion. Then you hit it again, and you're at that boosted kind of chorus distortion. And then you hit the other one, and you're on lead. And then it has an effects loop in the back, which you could mix it, and I would put a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb, and a little bit of compression to have that solo sound, and I would switch that on whenever I wanted to actually play leads and not just be louder by louder by louder, or more distorted by more distorted. And that is what I got used to. I only had a tuner, a noise gate, and my guitar amp for 10 years of shows. Maybe 70 shows I played like that, right? And then back to your thing with the X pattern cab. I don't have an X pattern, but I do have two 375 watt with a steel dust cap or an aluminum dust cap Commonwealths by Eminence that are super clean, and no matter what, they never break up from the amp. And then I have two 121s, which are like kind of somewhere between an Uberschall and a vintage 30, somewhere between that. Yeah. A little bit more metal than a vintage 30, but not too far. But they break up really well. And because the Uberschalls, can be pretty clean, but the vintage 30 breaks up really good.
Yeah, I got the vintage 30s, and then I got the Uber 75s.
And then I also have a 212 that has vintage 30s, but I haven't used that since the first half a year I was on BandLab. Then I switched back to this cab. And the thing is, I use the 121s most all the time. But just having those Commonwealths in there changes the way the 121s react, and it changes the way that the Commonwealths react. And with those in there, you can go higher volume, right? And most of that volume is being sucked up by something that isn't breaking up and is kind of clean. And that's in the room, and that's vibrating in the cab, and it's playing with the speaker's vibration, because it's a sealed cab, right? But it's not the actual sound recorded. There's mostly just 121 sound. So that's what I'm doing. And so it allows me to be quieter. If I had the P50s that the amp and the cabinet I have originally had in there, it would be like having vintage 30s that break up even quicker, but are easy to get clean. A lot like vintage 30s. They'd be just basically like a vintage 50 is what they'd be like, a higher watt vintage 30, right? Because those were made by Eminence, and that's what made me go, I'm gonna try some Eminence stuff. And I tried a bunch of different things and settled on these and sold stuff to other bandmates, and this is what I settled on. It makes my cab a 750 watt cab.
Yeah, that's solid.
And it's about 105 pounds. The cabinet, just the cabinet, it's 750 watts handling and 105 pounds. Those magnets are like 8 inches around and like 3 inches thick on those Commonwealths that I put on the bottom. And then it's a stereo cab, and then the VHT is 2 KT88s per side, and those put out 90 watts, 45 watts per tube, right? And that gives me a 180 watt amp that I can crank all the way up. And so my preamps are this Line 6. Now Line 6 is cool because it is like an Axe-Fx where you can emulate a bunch of effects and you can get these different amps kind of. It's not as truly different and diverse as the Axe-Fx is, but I turn off all the cab emulation in my Line 6 and make it just the preamp settings for the amps. And then I use a little bit of effects. I always try and dust lightly, just go very light on the effects. Every once in a while I'm a little thicker, but I try and dust lightly. And then I just go preamp only, no cab emulation, no speaker emulation, and go through my actual power amp into my cab, and then into a mixer, and then into my interface, and then just do it on my phone. And if it sounds good in the room, and it sounds good in the headphones, it's going to sound good in the end. So.
Yeah, man. I'm not actually using the Axe-Fx cab sims. I bought the Zilla cabs.
Is that software?
Yeah.
So you record into the Cubase and you run it through a cab emulator, right?
My current setup is I have a discrete 4 Synergy core, which is Antelope Audio. Yep. I got the guitars running. So basically out of the Axe-Fx into the Antelope Audio, which is connected into Cubase.
Right.
As far as the Axe-Fx, I turned off. Well, on the presets that I use, I turned off the cab simulations that are in the Axe, and I'm using and this is weird,
Yeah.
but so I downloaded the Zilla cabs, and I was able to insert those into the Axe effects.
Oh, that's cool.
So I didn't have. There's not another process there. I don't have to, you know.
That
I'm
is
not
cool.
using any sort of CPU.
That's cool. It doesn't drain your computer.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. So here's a funny thing. I'll get to what I was going to bring up about how we could record together real quick. But here's a funny thing. You ever go to record, but you know you need a different new sound because you're going to do like a different project, and you literally spend the 6 hours that you have allotted for recording just making the sounds and record nothing.
So just to speak to that,
because that was the first day of recording for Winter's Jams. It was just like 6.5 hours of making sounds. I almost forgot to do the blog. It was like 11:30. I'm like, oh fuck, I've been doing this for 6.5 hours. Shit, I gotta do a blog.
Bro, anytime that I go in there and I open up Axe Edit, I know that I might as well just hang it up if I wanted to write anything. Because I'm going to sit there just going back and forth between sounds. And, you know, and this is, I got a little complaint here about the Axe.
Yeah.
There's too many options.
Right. It's the same thing with my Line 6. I'm sitting there, I'm going, which fucking wah do I want? Click, click, click. I'm like doing a bunch of wah sounds. Which wah? Oh my god, this wah, which wah is better? Then I change pickups.
It's like you can go into your preamp settings and change the bias.
Yep.
Whatever. I don't even know what that is.
Bias.
But it's there.
That is the amount of milliamps that your preamp is putting into your power amp. So that is basically how much tube breakup you're going to get in your power tubes from your preamp, or how much breakup you're going to get in those preamp tubes. If you bias down, let's say you bias down, you're going to, let's say you go to get a sound on a clean, and you love the way that this sculpts your clean, but you just, when you play the chord too hard, it just starts to break up. Take the bias down, you play the chord hard, you're like, oh, it's not breaking up anymore. So that would be what you would do.
That's nice to know.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a distortion knob, but it's more like how much distortion does it have in its distortion knob.
Yeah, and the effect that it actually, you know, changing those settings doesn't actually, you know, it's not making worlds of difference.
No, it's not. It's not.
In the overall sound.
No.
But I will say, anytime I go to, like, I gotta make a day of it pretty much. If I'm gonna change any settings, I need to be prepared to sit down for 6 hours and really go through and fine tune everything. And then at the end of the 6 hours, I reset everything back to default because it sucks.
What? I do that too. you know what happens is I'll do this. I'll like trying my best to like build like this is what happened to me just the other day, so this is why I'm gonna say it. I get like trying to build like a Stevie Ray Vaughan or a Pink Floyd sound, right? And I get there and I'm done, and then I go sit at my phone in the middle of the night, you know, like the last couple hours, but I'm not doing any more music stuff. And I'm sitting on my phone and I go, let me look up Jimi Hendrix or whatever it is, or Pink Floyd or whatever sound I was trying to emulate and the word Axe Effects on YouTube, and I look it up and I'm like, oh shit. And then I go back in the next day and I do that and I'm like, fuck, I wasted 6 hours. His settings are way better.
But here's the thing, you also have to take into account what pickups you're using.
Yes.
Right? Because the pickups really do make the difference.
Yep.
You know? You can't just go roll in with some EMGs and say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and load this into Axe, and it's going to be, okay, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, it gets 30,000 upvotes, and it's a great sound. And then you run it through, and it's like, oh, it's way too hot. Right. You got to go back, change everything, which I use passive pickups now.
Yeah, I do too. I use Seymour Duncan like crazy. I got an Iceman. It's got actual 1982 Seymour Duncan Jazz JB, but the Jazz is in the bridge position and the JB's in the neck, and it's supposed to be that way. It's ordered that way. And my wife got that me for $200, and then I open it up and I find it has those pickups in it from 1982 when we were born. Then
That's pretty sweet.
Then I got an RG321 with a dime bucker, and it's like a dime bucker in the bridge, but it's not the dime bucker. It's like the Bill and Becky who invented that pickup that he used to use way back in the actual first 3 albums. And then like he does in the neck, I have a bridge version of a JB. And then I have the 5-way switch that the Ibanez has, so that second spot in is like the 2 singles, and it sounds so good on a clean. But then the dime bucker, so it's 1 switch away, clean sound and distorted sound. Then I got a Warlock that has a Pegasus, an Alternative 8, and a Sentient in blue. Then I got this new guitar. I got a sponsorship. I got some guy found me and wanted me to be his sponsor for his guitars. So I did that, and I replaced it with a Slash and a Jazz, right? A Slash pickup and a Jazz, and that's like a telly shape with deluxe pickups. And then I got one last one that I use a lot. This is like the 4 I use a lot. And then the other one is an Ibanez Geo that I scraped the Geo off because it was a really nice neck, even though it was $40 used. And I took and I routed it out so I could put a sustainer circuit in there. And so it has a kind of a larger pickup. My friend at Boeing made it. He routed it out on a CNC machine out of yellow plastic, so it's black and yellow. And it has a Slug by Seymour Duncan, which is a 53K pickup, and then a vintage rails right next to it, almost like 2 bridge pickups, kind of like a Steve Morse thing where there could be a whole other pickup in between. And then the neck is the sustainer pickup, which also sounds really glassy when it's off, but it gives you those the Joe Satriani tones because he uses a sustainer, and it lets you get like just like goes forever, you know, right? Like infinite sustain. 2 minutes later, same note, still going. How does he do that? It's not a compressor, it's a sustainer. Okay, so and that one's awesome. I call that the crux because that's what I want to use for any solo. But I also have one other guitar that's a 1984 Ibanez. So I got a lot of Ibanez. I love Ibanez. It's a 1984 Ibanez Roadstar 2, and what it has the slant pickup like Eddie Van Halen style, and it used to just have that slant pickup and a push-pull pot so you could make it single coil. Well, I changed that to a concentric pot, so it's like actually 2 pots in one, and I added this thing. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called A Little Thunder. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Okay, A Little Thunder is this guy named Andy something. We won't say his last name since I know it, but his initials, he changed his last name for publicity to Alt, A Little Thunder, right? Andy Alt, and the Little Thunder is it's a octaver for the lowest 3 strings on your guitar in a pickup that charges with USB. And so
that's pretty sweet.
One of the knobs, the lower knob on the concentric knobs, is for the bass volume, and the other knob is for the JB volume, and then it has a MIDI pickup, one of those MIDI pickups. And I use those whenever you hear synth on my songs or it's electronic, it's me playing that guitar, the MIDI pickup. Like all my Portal People songs, those are all played. I actually play those all, so I don't have to sit there and program.
If I had to condense my setup and all I could have is 3 pedals, I would have a Super Octaver.
Sweet.
I would have I have this pedal, man, that was given to me by a buddy when we started, doing better as my band started gaining notoriety and whatever.
Yeah.
He gave me this Analog Man overdrive.
Yeah.
And it's this old Ibanez. It's the Tube Screamer, but it's the one that has like the selector switch.
Yes.
And dude, I did not realize
it just makes your amp better, right?
Dude, just that it's the best overdrive that I've ever heard or played through. Yeah. And you can get them. They're like $350. You can still get them. Yeah. But I've had this pedal since the beginning. But that and a good delay pedal, and
boom, you're set.
I mean, that's it.
Delay is reverb. If you don't even need reverb. If you got reverb, you got it. If you don't, and you got delay, you're good. It'll make it sound like you're in a room. It'll be enough.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use delay a lot.
I always use. Yeah.
Even
so
if it's
the Boss,
just a tiny.
What is it? DD7.
DD7. Those are great.
Yeah.
I use the onboard stuff on my Line 6 these days, but I used to have a DD6, I think it is. DD7's the newest one, though.
It might be. So it's not the cheapest one. It's the middle of the road one, but it's still a stomp box.
Right. Boss, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And the other one's a Boss, too, the one you said first, right?
The Super Octaver.
Super Octaver. And that's the brown one. Capital Super.
Yeah, man.
Yep. I used that for a lot of years in my band because the bassist just wouldn't show up all the time. And
but you can get such a cool sound out of those anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Just with the polyphonic.
Yep.
So a lot of the octavers that I played before that I never cared for because they would always garble and like you try to you couldn't get clean sounds, but the polyphonic allowed you to get those clean octaves without the scramble BS.
And the cool thing is about the Little Thunder is if I want an octaver sound, I just run both pickups into a pedal and then that pedal into the amp, and then boom, it's both of them at the same time. And the Little Thunder, you can have this, one of the settings, and there's this little touch settings on it, is lowest note only. So it just plays the lowest note of what you're playing. So if you're playing like a chord, it's just playing the lowest bass note only. So it's
that's
pretty
wild.
fun.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, you can look it up. It's pretty cool.
The fact that you can get that out of a pickup is pretty insane.
So when it comes to us doing jamming, BandLab has this thing. I don't know how long it's been there. Maybe like a few months, maybe middle of last year, end of last year. They have this thing where we can both go into the BandLab mixer together at the same time.
Really?
Yeah, so I go into a project. Let's say I start a project, I call it Samuel P. Burns or something, whatever. Project 1. And then I open up the mixer. You have to do it on a computer, but you go into the mixer, and then I invite you to the project. Then you accept the invitation, right? And I can be like,
and we're in there live.
And then we're in there live, like we're like one of us, like we're both remote controlling each other. It doesn't let us like. It isn't the same as like if we had a Zoom, we could record at the same time. I was hoping it was, and I tried it that way, and it wasn't. But we could be, on a phone call. We could do like a messenger phone call, be talking to each other, and be like, this is the drums I have, or whatever. And then you could lay down a riff, and I could be like, what did you do here? I am not quite getting it, while I'm on the bass. Then I'll lay down the bass line, and we're like, okay, let's go to the next section. And then when we're all done, if we feel like they aren't perfect enough, because we're sitting there trying to do it together, you can go on your own and redo all the guitar parts, and I can go on my own and redo the bass parts, and, boom, there we go.
Yeah, man, BandLab, I gotta say, they really have just come so far.
Oh, yeah, they come every day. And people are like, these damn glitches. I'm like, dude, these glitches mean that we're getting closer and closer to being able to one day jam together right there on the app. Those glitches are a sign of progress. That's all they are.
And bro, let's be serious though. People complaining about the glitches now would have never made it in the beginning.
No notifications for a whole day. Try that.
Right. And then you get 10,000 come through like in an hour, and you're like, Jesus Christ, why? And then you silence the thing because it's just too unpredictable. Then you just it was definitely some trial and error.
Solid
there for a
24
while,
hours of no notifications.
Yeah, man, it was
2 days of not being able to publish. Oh my God! When am I going to be able to publish this?
Or you publish a song and it goes into the ethers, and
where is it? Where is it? It's gone.
Never to be seen again. I mean, sorry about your bad luck. And then I had this issue that was infuriating, man, because.
No, what's funny? Just a second before you go to this, and then you write BandLab, and you're like, this disappeared, and they go, send me the link. Ah, what are you talking about?
It's so mind-numbing, man. But I had this issue for the longest time of where my guitar would only come through the left side in their DAW.
Man.
And I'm like, I can't even use it. What's the point?
Yeah.
So then I ended up, that's probably when I went ahead and got my own like
DAW,
because I never had a real DAW until actually I did kind of on the phones for a minute there with IK Multimedia. But I will say when you play the simple DAWs, and they really work well, and it's great. There's something about moving into something like when I moved into Cubase 10.5.
It's daunting.
First off, when you were talking earlier, just a little bit ago, you were talking about how long it might take you to you come up with the part, and then it takes an hour and a half to to track it. Moving from like the iPad, which is what I used exclusively for pretty much most of the time up until last year. Yeah. Whenever I moved into the MacBook, it really hindered me in a lot of ways. Yeah. Like, because to get a good sound, I figured out the iPad, and Cubase was dumbed down on the iPad, and I finally figured it out, and I'm writing songs like in 45 minutes, and it was just amazing. Right. Yep. And I'm like, and then I went and said, well, you know what, I need to move to the next level, and moving up into Cubase 10.5 Pro really put the boot to my face.
Yep. Yep. And it was probably frustrating, right?
Yeah, man, sitting there for 3 hours, and then your end product is just not great. I struggled with that, and a lot of my sessions were killed just because I went in there all like hopped up, ready to write some music, and then I got stuck in the technical aspect.
All the technical minutia. Yep.
It's awful, man. And and here I don't know how long it's been. It's been probably 8 months or so that I moved into Cubase. Yeah. And I'm just now at a point of where I actually have templates set, which it is amazing.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah, once you do find the sound that you like, it's not perfect by any means. I'm not there yet, but at least I have a template that I can throw up, and I can click on. I use Get Good Drums for all the drum stuff I'm doing now. But
Misha Minsour, right?
Yeah, man, old Misha. He's
thanks for the GGD. I use Cubase. Not Cubase. Sorry, I use Superior Drummer, and I do it in Cakewalk now. So, and I'll do a combination of playing drums, stealing MIDIs, or taking MIDI parts, like drum parts, like downloading MIDI drum parts, like buying packages or whatever. Things like any combination of those things with the sounds through Cakewalk, or I'll do my actual TD11, which I think to my pickiness just doesn't sound good enough. I mean, it's not bad with all the guitars and stuff, but when I'm like me and you, we both go off the drums. So if I have the choice of a Matt Dunlap drum over my shitty TD11, I'll play the same Matt Dunlap track 3 times before I want to go try and play with my shit and try and make a good track. Yeah. Matt Dunlap, by the way, he's watching. He says, "You guys need to make a song together, rocket ship to the moon." So,
man, and that does need to happen. I will say, Matt is definitely one of the best drummers I've come across on BandLab, and and Matt, super appreciative of anything that you put out there, the work that you put out there, and that you let others fork. I mean, it's always inspiring, man. Anything I've ever seen you put up there, for the community, it's always appreciated, because you just know that you're going to get some great, some great parts that you can actually write, great music too.
Plus, he's also a bowing badass like me, so.
Well, there you go.
There you go. I mean, he lives in St. Louis, so he works at a different plant. But we're both Boeing men, so that's that little common thread that we have that I think will keep us connected. Even if something stupid band kind of drama were to happen between us, we'll always be cool because of that.
Yeah, man. And also when I will say, like, I have done some projects with people where you're not there in person, so you don't really, because everybody's got a different personality, and it's
right.
The one thing at the end of the day, though, just musicians, and at the end of the day, we're always good to come back together and
Yep.
And write music, man, because it's really what it's all about. There's not a band that I've been in where everything is just always smooth, but and here we are on, like, with BandLab, this massive community of just people, and which is really the beautiful thing, I mean, people that you would have never met, come across ever, here you are, able to, like, I'm actually doing a project with a guy in Germany,
what's his name?
It's Marius Volz.
Okay. I was going to be like, is it Antiphon? Because I've been having a lot of really good, long discussions with him, and he's been a really cool new friend, and I think we'll be friends for quite a long time. This guy, Antiphon 842. But, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, man. And Marius has...
and it's funny, right now, it's Samuel P. Lazon's song right now that's playing is The Struggle with Marius.
Yeah.
What?
He's
coincidence and a half?
Dude, one thing about this guy is he's got, like, really good ballad style vocals that he throws down, and he came across one of my songs, like, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was what the hell? Probably my favorite track that's out there with him. Is I'm not gonna be able to think of it. I'd have to look it up.
It's all right.
But being able to connect with people, like, in other countries, even, it really has, it's next level as far as, like, being able to write projects and write music, to have access like that. I mean, look at BandLab. It's like its own thing. With new music that's not like the cookie cutter BS that's just on repeat.
Right. Every once in a while, I'll find, like, a really good song, and I'll send it to, like, an old bandmate or roommate / bandmate of mine. Somebody who I had a lot in common with for, like, music we like, everything from Frank Zappa to the Melvins, right? And I'll send it over to him, and I'll be like, this sounds like something we would have made. And he'll be like, that is such an awesome song. And I'm like, dude, it's on BandLab. I'm just still waiting for him to come on BandLab, But, you can't make everybody do it.
Hey, that's a struggle in itself.
I know.
I have tried like hell to get guys that I was in groups with to come on and write. And, I guess not everybody is in love with the idea.
Yeah.
Or they just don't have time, or who knows. I mean,
there's just certain people, I guess it would be people like me and you, people like me and you, I guess this is what we have in common. We, when we were young, when we were 14, 15, 16, 17, or whatever, we were spending 4 hours in our room. And even now that we're coming up on 40 in a couple of years here, we still want to spend a couple hours in our room playing and making music. Some of these other guys, they're only really interested in playing in a band. Oh, my daughter comes to me. She wants marshmallows in a bowl. I'll give you some marshmallows in a bowl, you 3-year-old demon. There you go. Thank you, she said.
Nice. Hey, man, you can't go wrong with marshmallows in a bowl.
Yeah. Not messy.
I'll take marshmallow in a bowl right now.
If she drops them, the dogs will just eat them up.
Yep. But yeah, man, it's also been nice watching other people, like, just part of the music journey, back to that, seeing other people grow in like over, you know, a period of time. Like there's a guitarist actually that comes to mind on here. What's his name? I'm bad with names.
Matt Dunlap said that's a dad fail for giving her the.
Well, you know, the funny thing about dad fails is, well, in my, you know, my wife with our kids is always, you got to eat healthy stuff, and you know, I get that.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess I'm kind of the cool dad in a lot of ways because
they'll love me more. You know. So go away, wife.
That's basically what I was driving at without saying it.
They won't hate me when I'm old, so there's that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, man.
My wife's on the messages. She said, I'm not going to let her have it. She just had ice cream cone and a fruit snack, but I didn't see that. So then she comes in and she's all being super cute, and I give it to her, and my wife goes, look, she's back in here in the living room. She's got this smug look on her face. Whenever I say no, all the kids just go to, Dad, I'm sick of it.
That's one thing you can count on kids for is when they go to mom and it doesn't work, they go to dad and it does work. What they do is they take that and throw it in mom's face. Oh, you know, hey, just casually walking by, holding the bowl out in front of her face.
Yeah, but dad also does things like wrestles with them and then stays on top of them with their big old belly. Beyond the point of screaming and like, no, stop, and they have to deal. They have to deal with us. We're also their worst torturer. So, mom's
it's
actually
true, but we got to prepare them. Though, you know,
yeah, we need them to be strong in case apocalypse comes.
You know, life is you always gotta assume the worst, right?
Right.
Let them down easy. But
noogies, hey, what's that on your shirt? Flipping them up their lip. Oh, Dad.
Yep. Torture, man. You know, just like I was tortured. You know, there's something there.
Yep.
Got to torture your kids.
Yep.
But yeah, man.
That's
definitely,
awesome.
Definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
How long? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking we'll close the blog up, dude. We had a great everything from connecting and being the same age and starting guitar at the same time, all the way over to similar styles of writing, and even just some of our music can be comparable. So we had a good little blog here. It was fun. Yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly really, you know, definitely enjoyed it, and I like your blog anyway, man. It's
sweet.
How many have you done now?
412. You're 412
Gee.
now. Yeah.
Holy.
I took a break because I lost my check mark.
Oh, really?
I called.
What's the check mark?
So they had a contest in May of 2019, and I won a check mark. Wait, 2019, and I won a check mark for being one of the 4 songs in the top 4. Right? It's this little blue check mark, and I won it. And I had it, and it was awesome, and I loved it. It felt like I made it in music. I'm a cult. I made it underground cult in my music. I'm like a cult guy. I think I'm gonna have a following. I have all these songs. I did all this work. I got some credit where it was due. I felt like I finally made it. I don't care if I'm famous or making money. I have a blue check mark next to my name
check mark, man.
on a music app. And then they took away and they created that following limit. Right?
Really?
And they made me unfollow. I was following 150,000 people. They made me unfollow 145,000 people overnight without warning.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I got really pissed about it, and I called them assholes, so they suspended me for 2 weeks and took my check mark.
That's insane, man. So
that's when I quit the blog.
For like a week.
You had it for a week?
I didn't know that. I didn't really understand it though, because it was there, then it was gone, then it was there, then it was gone.
Yeah, they had a glitch with a check mark too. I had that. That was back in 2018, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was like almost 3 years ago. That was like 2017 maybe. And I had that too. And Screamer Bob was like, "How'd you get the check mark?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then 3 days later, it's gone. And he's like, "Hey, you don't got a check mark anymore." I'm like, "No, I don't." And then like 2 days later, he goes, "Hey, you got the check mark again." I'm like, "I do." And then
so to get the check mark, you gotta have a top song.
no. So I won a contest that said, if you win this contest, you get a check mark.
Oh.
And it's and it was only, they said in the contest when they announced it, the winner gets check marks. But they gave all the winners, you know those BandLab contests?
Yeah.
So they gave all the winners of all the 5 contests, which was 20 people, all the top 4 winners that they picked, even the runners-up that only get $100. You get a 500 for the win and $100. They gave all of them check marks, right? So it was like in my group, it was like me, Pepper, Nick Oken, Nick Robb at Oken.
Yeah.
And Jared Kenneth Johnson. So that was the 4 in my group that got check marks, right? And then there was like other categories, like rap people got check marks and all this stuff, and they gave check marks away. So I had it from that, but then I lost it from calling them assholes, and they got suspended for 2 weeks. But
so basically, like Queens of the Stone Age, first they give it and they take it away.
Yes, just like that. Don't. No one knows. So yes, that's what it is. And then now they have a thing up where you can apply for a check mark. You make a little video, and you show that you show yourself signing in, that you're really you. Show yourself signing into some other social apps that, like your Spotify and your iTunes or whatever. And then you make a little 5-minute video of that. And then you give like a 200-word explanation. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to apply. I'm going to go back and apply for the check mark. I'm going to grovel. I'm going to beg. I've been begging for a year to get it back, and I haven't gotten it back. So I'm going to try.
So you just need to tell them you were only assholes that one day.
Yes. I did say that. I made a whole blog this Thanksgiving where I said, thanks. I played all their music, all the different members of BandLab's music, while saying thanks, thank you, thanks, thank you, thank you a lot, thanks. I just said thanks for like 20 minutes, and then I said sorry for being an asshole, you guys, and listened to their music and commented on their music, and a couple of them responded, but no check mark. So I think I'm just gonna apply and see what happens. Whatever, no big deal.
So they really they really put the heavy hand on you for that check mark, though, huh?
Yep, and they said maybe you can get it back if you keep making music. So I kept making music but stopped doing the blog. But then I missed doing the blog, and I've been home on layoff and in rehab for marijuana. So I quit doing marijuana this year and quit being such an asshole, or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm sober now, and maybe I should get that check mark back. Maybe it'll keep me sober, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe not. But
I'll write you a letter of recommendation.
Yeah. Don't do that. I told everyone to go reach out on my behalf for doing that, and that was what really pissed them off and why they did that. So don't do anything on my behalf for me. Just they'll probably take it away again. Give it to me for a week and take it away.
Do you want to do it on my behalf?
Yeah. No. I'll send you the link to the place. You can do your own. But yeah, they're still giving them away regularly. Like every couple of weeks, somebody new has a check mark. There's a 12-year-old with a check mark, so maybe I could get one.
Well, the only place I've seen check marks was like Twitter and Instagram, I think, right?
Yeah, and Spotify has it. Verified artists.
Okay, so I thought
I just got my Spotify check mark, so maybe I can get my BandLab check mark now.
So the check mark is where it's at.
Hell yeah! Actually, I was just really proud. I just liked it. It just felt special. That's all it is.
It looks special.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
You know what it is? In 4th grade, there was this teacher, and she used to give gold stars, and she would never give me gold stars. And then one time I was being really disruptive, and she goes, "Anybody else think we should take away all of Chris's gold stars? Clap their hands." And they all start clapping their hands. So I got really pissed off and went over there and tore down the whole chart and ripped it up. And I got a bunch of trouble for that. So maybe that's why I just love having that acknowledgement.
So this has a little bit of story behind it here. So now we're getting at the nuts and bolts of what's going on here.
Yeah, deep into my psyche, all the way back into my childhood. Yeah,
right back to childhood, man. I can tell you, that I got a checkered past, but I'm You know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dad jokes are coming out.
Yeah, dad jokes.
Dad jokes are coming out. But
all right, dude.
yeah, dude. Well, let's try to get together and do a tune. I'd like to do another one with Matt again too, man.
Yeah. We'll get Matt to
just
lay down
throwing that
some
out there.
drums that will inspire us. And when Matt's finally done doing more drums, Matt, we're talking to you. Get those drums done. When he's finally done doing more drums, then me and you can finally make a project together. So Matt, we're waiting on you. Just kidding.
Just waiting on Matt. You know, just throwing that out there, man. I don't know. I'm not sure what your week looks like, but.
Well, all right, dude. That was an awesome show.
You know?
That was totally rad. It was.
Dude.
I was surprised about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yeah, man.
You know.
Yeah. Anybody else you want to give a certain shout out to at all?
Luella wants to give shout outs.
Oh, Luella wants to give a shout out. Yeah, Luella, who do you want to give a shout out to? Say hi, Joey.
Hi, Joey.
Okay, there you go.
There's more.
Oh, what else? Who are you giving a shout out to, Luella?
Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Rosie. Okay. What else? And say hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Okay, there you go. All right, dude. We'll call that a blog.
Brother. Awesome. Hey, I appreciate it again, and I'll catch you next time.
Okay, man. Later.
All right, take care. Goodbye.
Bye. All right, guys. That was the blog. I hope you all enjoyed. Idiot Blog 412, where we had a big old 2-hour chat with Samuel Plazon. Samuel P. Lazon. I meant to ask him the exact way to say his name, but hey, it's all good. I'll chat with him later, and I'll make sure I say it right next time I feature him. And so, hey, you guys, keep making music. Keep having fun. Keep enjoying life. We got 2 more days until Orange Man Bad is gone, so there's always that. All right, guys, that's the show, so I hope you enjoyed it. Catch you guys on the flip side.